I'm Sam Rose, and you're tuning in to Commerce is Chaos, the podcast for consumer brand founders who know that building a business is messier than the highlight reel shows. Your supplier just missed their deadline, your top product is out of stock, and your competitor somehow launched the same thing at half the price. Sound familiar? Every week, we dive into the real problems that keep founders up at night, from inventory disasters to supply chain nightmares, because surviving the chaos is what separates brands that fail from brands that scale. Today, I'm talking to Matt Cohen, co-founder of SIMPLi. Matt left a decade in financial services to build one of the biggest regenerative food brands in the country, starting with 80 farmers in Peru and a promise to buy every harvest. Let's talk about all of this. I'm really excited to meet you. I am a fan of the brand and also just of the way that you've built the business and who you've chosen to build it with, which selfishly rhymes with some of my own choices, and also your background. So we both work with our spouses. We both have backgrounds in finance, and we both chose to do something nearly ridiculous. Now I'm imposing on you, nearly ridiculous on the shoulders of that. And I would love just kick us off by just having you tell us the story of what made you lose the suit and tie and put on a pair of, hiking boots and go to Peru.
Well, thank you, Sam, for having me on today, and excited to share more of SIMPLi and how we got started and everything that has been accomplished since over the last 5 years. But in terms of like before SIMPLi and coming from a finance background, I think it really dates back to when I was a kid. I grew up in Annapolis, Maryland, and I always knew I wanted to be an entrepreneur. I think what started was a snowball stand on the side of the road, pretty much right outside my house. So you see kids having lemonade stands. I had a snowball stand. Then went to sell candy, started with like door to door selling like the Pez candy. And then I eventually would sell at my school and until I got, I think I got a warning where I would get suspended by the principal if I continued to do that. So I stopped that.
You didn't just give them a cut?
Well, that's the thing. Actually, that's the thing. I would not. There was a classmate who was asking for free candy. And I was like, no. And then she went to go tell on me. And so that's how I got caught. I wouldn't provide a cut to a classmate.
Where is she today, Matt?
That's spot on. I'm not sure. That was literally back in middle school. So it's been a couple years, but I did for a very short period of time of like the newspaper route. But it was more so I would wake my mom up at 5 a.m. She would drive me instead of riding the bike. So that didn't last very long. And then I kind of got away from that for a number of years through high school, college, and I went to finance. I was derivative valuations in the earlier years, and then went to corporate development and M&A. And I think what really inspired me to get back to and ultimately start SIMPLi was in corporate development, I was able and had the opportunity to meet a lot of different entrepreneurs. I was working at a hotel company that was one of the largest in the world. And so not only did I have the benefit to work with our executive team, I had a global presence and learned so much around marketing and finance and operations, business development. But I was also able to meet a lot of entrepreneurs and sit on the other side of the table and hear their stories. And I think that got me really excited and inspired me to then get back to my own roots. And so it was a combination of that. And then my co-founder, Sarela, who is also my wife, on our first date in DC in 2014, we talked about how we one day want to be entrepreneurs, and food did not come up during that date or as a business idea. But so that definitely evolved from 2014 to 2020, where ultimately we saw the opportunity to create SIMPLi, and then the rest is history.
Okay, well, what ideas did you talk about on that first date that like you didn't do?
I think it's funny. It was more so on the tech side, I would say. I knew that I wanted to create a company that could drive impact. I wasn't sure what that was though. And I think similar from Sarela's aspect, she actually did consider starting an alcohol company, bringing in alcohol from Brazil. And she was like in the very preliminary stages of exploring that option. So I think it was a combination of driving impact, but also because Sarela and I love to travel. We love to immerse ourselves in different cultures and to try new food. And I think we're very much foodies. And I think the basis of that was really how we came about SIMPLi, where we were backpacking in South America. Sarela is from Peru originally, and we were in the Andes, 14,000 feet up at Lake Titicaca, where we came across a farmer that they spoke Quechua, which is a dialect that neither Sarela and I nor I speak. And what was incredible is that we sat around a table and we had such an amazing experience through the connection of food. And it was, I think, at that time that really was catalytic for us that we have something special here where we can tell the story of the farmer, we can bring great quality products to market and have that authenticity, integrity for the products we bring to market. And so that was really, I think, the seed that has now flowered.
See what you did there. Okay, so you're having dinner and you're using food as as the communication and kind of relationship glue. Did you become friends with that farmer, and then was the idea that you could kind of like help them to continue to build, the ecosystem that they had started, or was that more just like the seed again for something that you kind of took back home, brewed on, and then came back
Yeah.
and said, okay, we like this model, we like this supply chain.
Yeah, it's a combination. The exact farmer we may work with today, but it wasn't the first farmer we worked with, but it was that region. It was in Puno, which is right outside Lake Titicaca. And so, yeah, the basis, they were bringing food to us. They were cooking for us. And the hospitality with all of our farmers globally, not just in Peru, is incredible to this day. It's one of the most special things, I think. One of the unique opportunities we have as well by working with farmers directly is to experience that hospitality. But so that community was first in terms of where we sourced from and the basis from there. But and then we've grown to something much more significant. But so quinoa was the first product we brought to market. Extra virgin olive oil was the second product from Sparta, Greece that we brought to market. And then today we have 75 products in 13 countries.
Sourced from 13 different countries.
Sourced from 13 different countries.
Wow. That's a lot to bite off. Now I'm doing it.
Yes.
Oh boy. Don't start that again. Tell us a little bit about what it means to be regenerative and organic in this context, because I know that it really raises the bar, but I'd love to hear how kind of you frame that and define it, and maybe also sort of the opportunity that you're seeing there and what I perceive as kind of like a market leading approach to getting the word out about regenerative farming in the first place.
Yeah. So the basis of when we started SIMPLi back in 2020, our three pillars as a brand was focused around quality, social impact, and environmental impact. And really, and also SIMPLi, SIMPLi, the I stands for innovation. So create a business model that challenges status quo, doing it differently, impact, ingredients, and integrity. And so the core values of SIMPLi from day zero was really around that. And so it came very organically when because we didn't know about regenerative agriculture. That wasn't part of our vocabulary when we started the company. And so when we came across regenerative agriculture and Regenerative Organic Alliance and what regenerative organic is, we were already doing it. I mean, and not only were we doing it, but the farmers we work with have been doing it for generations. Is that indigenous knowledge that farmers have. Ultimately, the farmers know what's best for their land because they've been doing it for generations. Their fathers and mothers have been doing it, and their grandparents and great grandparents. So, I think what we've been able to achieve though is that with Regenerative Organic Alliance, they've been able to structure these learnings that they've seen across the globe into a certifying body that holds a higher standard to our food system for brands and stakeholders to abide by. And so regenerative agriculture is the big balloon out there that is the purpose to regenerate, to improve the health of the soil, to leave it in a better place than where it came. And I think that's like the general basis of regeneration, whereas regenerative organic is built on organic. And so for us, we wanted to make sure that, because there's a lot of certifying bodies out there, you don't want to get lost in all the certifications. We don't want to have 20 certifications on our packaging that you see on the shelf. And we saw the most alignment with Regenerative Organic Alliance. Regenerative Organic Alliance focuses on three things. It's farmer welfare, animal welfare, and the health of the soil. So there's a lot of overlap with the three pillars of SIMPLi when we started the company and what ROA stands for. And we wanted to make sure that all the work we're doing behind the scenes is getting validated by a third party so that we have that stamp of approval for the consumers who care about that around the impact. We can show up not only from a marketing standpoint, but truly third-party validation behind the scenes.
That's so cool. How much are you as a business responsible for manifesting these relationships as compliance versus finding suppliers who already I don't have the certifications, or
Yeah.
are you helping farmers also get the certifications, or just paint that landscape for us a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think that's one of the ways that Simply stands out is that not only are we really listening to the customer and finding ways that we can solve what the customer is looking for, but we also look back to the farmer when it comes to innovation. And part of our passion as a company is we have the ability to influence and change our food system. So if a farmer is conventional, we will develop a plan with them and get them organic certified and then even Regenerative Organic certified. We have a framework called the Regenerative Pathway Program that can be applied to any farmer in any country. It's been done now in 10 countries where we've been first to market with products or first to market in terms of the entire country from a certification standpoint. And so that's a value proposition we offer farmers. But ultimately, it gets back to allowing us to bring great quality products to market. What we are seeing around the products is that not only are they clean because they don't have pesticides or glyphosates and also no heavy metals, we're seeing on average across our portfolio 35% increase in nutrient density. Simply products are 35% more rich in nutrient density compared to USDA benchmarks. And that's because of how they're grown and also at times where they're grown as well.
Wow, and you're leading the charge on a lot of that.
Yeah, so we're working with the farmers directly and
Yeah.
and doing that and it's definitely more work versus I think as a typical CPG brand, you figure out what product you want to go to market with and you focus your time and efforts there and then you just work with like a broker or an ingredients company. But we're doing both. We're figuring out the supply chains. We're figuring out where products are grown best, building those supply chains and then bringing those products to market.
Okay, now I'm going to bring you into like some nitty gritty stuff. Has any of your sourcing really gone wrong in the past? Like where you put in all of this effort and you try to establish a partnership and all of a sudden it could be the weather, it could be an earthquake, it could be that like the farmer thought that they wanted to scale but realized that like that's not actually the lifestyle that they want to have, or I don't know, I'm just making stuff up, but
Yeah.
when this goes right, it's pretty easy to imagine how the
Yeah.
rising tide just lifts all the ships. What
Oh yeah.
happens when it goes wrong? Cards on the table. Your tech stack is held together with duct tape and prayers. If you're a brand founder or COO juggling Shopify, your 3PL portal, 3 different inventory trackers, and yes, that one crucial Google Sheet, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Orders get lost, inventory counts are fiction, and your seamless integrations break every other Tuesday. Endless Commerce changes the game. One platform for everything. DTC, wholesale, marketplaces, the works. AI-powered forecasting, real-time inventory visibility, and integrations that actually integrate. Teams like Great Jones, Food 52, and Pattern Brands already made the switch. Ready to ditch the chaos? Visit endlesscommerce.com, mention Commerce is Chaos when you reach out, and get 3 months free. Because your ops stack should be your competitive advantage, not your biggest headache.
Yeah, we definitely have had our learning experiences. I mean, even setting up the first supply chain, which was Peru, and bringing in quinoa. So it was January 2020. We started as a food service brand, and we brought in 44,000 pounds of quinoa that were floor loaded because we would just go to the warehouse and palletize them ourselves. So it's a great workout, by the way. If you ever want to have like this alternative workout, going to a warehouse and they call it lumping, but just palletizing product. It's an incredible workout. But all the learnings of setting up that first supply chain of being able to export or import product and working with the set up. There's so
Yeah,
many learnings with that. I think more importantly, which the silver lining has allowed us to be a much more resilient business is that if we look over the past 5 years from a
yeah,
supply chain perspective, there hasn't been a normal environment. We have COVID that led to global supply chain disruptions, that has
Yeah.
led to port congestions, major port congestions where containers were stuck at ports for like 90 days or more.
Yeah.
We were headquartered in Baltimore, Maryland. The Francis Scott Key Bridge collapsed and prevented
Yes.
containers going in and out,
Yeah.
followed by tariffs to now more recently the wars in the Middle East and the disruption that has there. So I think we've gotten comfortable with the uncomfortable when it
Yeah.
comes to supply chains. But I think that to answer your question in terms of something not going right, there's a lot that hasn't gone right, and you just have to be agile, scrappy, especially as a small business. But there is one project that comes to mind. It was acai.
Oh,
We partnered with the Nature Conservancy, so TNC, a global nonprofit that's doing amazing work north of Macapá, which is north of Belém in Brazil, which
yeah.
is known as the true origin of acai, of where it was first found to be grown many, many years ago. And so we had to get a approval from the government of Brazil to go to this protected indigenous community.
Okay.
And then the way we got there by plane, by boat, by car, by all the transportation modes, but you're deep, deep in the Amazon. So you're taking like the small kayak that is motored by it's equivalent to like a weed whacker that you would use, and that's how they get around these really tight and narrow parts of the river, the Amazon. But
Yeah.
ultimately, we didn't bring it to market because the cold supply chains are completely different than dry supply chains and the complexities that go into it. And I think it was the right decision, but I think that's an example where you have to learn to say no to for the best interest of the business.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so hard, especially when, they're like Econ 101, you talk about some costs, but when you're in it, it is so, so hard to like just accept
Yeah.
that. And, you're making none of these decisions are one decision. They're all like
Yeah.
hundreds of individual everyday decisions that you're making. And so to figure out which one is going to be the one decision where you're like, no, is
Yeah.
so much harder than like 100 yeses. Like,
And that's how
you
you
know,
grow to be a great leader, is to know when to say no.
I want to say, I am not sure I have that badge yet. I need like a regenerative CEO. That's what we need. We need a certifying body for
Yeah.
CEOs that have like, well, here's the thing about leadership. A thing about leadership. Like what makes you a pretty good entrepreneur, I think, is ignoring so many people telling you to say no. That's how you build something extraordinary that no one else thinks is possible. That's how you build like a breakout business. And so you kind of have to really practice this muscle of like ignoring everybody when they say no
Yeah.
or not right and that comes from your family, it comes from your employees, it comes from your customers, it comes from your suppliers. They're like, this is
Yeah.
impossible. And you're like, I don't believe you. Or the customers are like, I don't want that. And I'm like, someone else will. So you practice that muscle so much and it gets so big from
Yeah.
exercising it. And then you have to really balance that out with like a completely different instinct around when to actually take no for an answer. Because the whole thing that got you here was saying yes a bajillion times,
Yep.
despite everybody's, like warnings.
Absolutely. And it's not only ignoring those, but it's also using those as fire to inspire you more. Because, for example, when you're talking to investors, you're trying to raise money to grow the brand, you're going to get hundreds of no's and one or two yeses, and you're going to get those no's before you get the yeses. And so you should use those no's not as a way to put you down, but as a way to fuel you to continue on doing what you're doing.
I feel like that's part of the game, right? Is like maybe there's
Yeah.
like a big investor cabal where they all get together and they like decide. Like and if if you get through 100 no's, then they've all pre-decided who will say yes to you, but it's definitely the last person in line.
Yep. I believe I mean, I've experienced that myself. So I'm sure many founders have. So it's not too far off out there.
It's like there's an old trick with hiring a salesperson, which
Yeah.
is, and not that I've employed this, but maybe I have. I don't know. Anyway, if you say no to a salesperson and they come back to you and they're like, but wait, why? And like, I really want this job and I would do a great job. And here's why you should hire me. Then like, that's your signal that they're the right salesperson. I don't necessarily have the like, I'm too soft.
Oh, I think I think that's a great approach. I think ultimately, like everything happens for a reason. I'm a huge believer that everything happens for a reason. And I think one of the as a business owner or scaling a company, one of the most important decisions you make is who you hire. And there's that adage that you fire quickly and hire slowly. But I think ways that you can evolve or have not only a better onboarding process, but more importantly, a really good recruiting process, saying no and making sure they come back, or like say, for example, not responding until they send a thank you note. If they don't send a thank you note, then that's the end of it. Everything happens for a reason, but it's part of that. There's strategy to that. And I think it is really impactful in the long term.
Yeah, I agree with you. I do that one just to put my secret recruiting sauce out there. Like if got to send a thank you note. And that always makes me feel weird because I'm a thankful person. I'm a playful, light person. So I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm sitting here waiting for them to do it. And it feels like it, but I want to send one, but I have to like practice restraint.
There's definitely been one or two times where we were ready to extend an offer and we never got the thank you letter. And unfortunately, we never pursued that path. But I think again, the team that we have today too is incredible.
Yeah.
I think I mean that's the end result.
As we were talking, I pulled up a picture of me lumping pallets from during COVID. And it'll restart in a second, but Brian's standing inside the truck and like this
Same
is
kind of thing.
loaded.
What was that? How heavy were those boxes?
Oh gosh. I mean probably 25 pounds each.
Yeah.
Ish.
That's
Yeah.
that's what we would do because in the early year, we would bring in 25 pounds and 50 pounds. And so 25 pounds, I believe, was 80 a pallet, and then 50 pounds was 40 a pallet. So I got really good at not only is it palletizing them, but the shrink wrap them because
Oh yeah.
we didn't have the automated shrink wrapper. So I would do that for many pallets.
It's so funny doing like it is an amazing workout. And then also it's a mental workout because like doing pallet math is really
Yeah.
like becomes really interesting. Like how do I optimize that?
It's a nice way, like, especially when you wear multiple hats early on, like when you're in the beginning stages, if you want to take a mental break, go out and do the operation things. It's a nice way to do that.
One of the challenges for us was always that like above 25 pounds and it's a team lift. And then I don't know. We always try to optimize for the lighter boxes.
From like was that from a compliance standpoint?
Yes.
Yeah. Again, risk and reward. Like I think you understand what risk you take, and you might be less risk averse early on. And so as you continue to grow, then those kind of compliance and things come in place there. I think there's a few things that I won't share today that I'm sure that
Yeah, right. We're pausing the recording. We're gonna say all the things that OSHA would be mad at, and then we'll be
well,
right
just back to, I mean, like you fake it till you make it, right? And so I think I mean, there's probably very few entrepreneurs out there that they're as straight as an arrow and in getting what they've accomplished.
Yeah, I agree with that. It like just being willing to take an unconventional approach to stuff and then also just put in the sweat equity yourself is like, I mean, that I don't know, that's like the crucible that we're all like,
Sure.
fired up in. But I really do think it creates such an ability to be a dynamic problem solver.
Absolutely.
Because,
And that is the best way to learn as well, right? Just getting your hands dirty, no matter what it is, whether you're working on your website or, I mean, we're in the ages of AI. And so just diving right into AI and the different resources out there for that to something that's more tangible of getting your hands dirty, literally with operations. If you're in the food space, and you'll learn a lot as well, and you can actually optimize your processes and do things that maybe are not done right, or that you can figure out ways to be more effective, which then saves costs or drives more revenue to the business.
I remember during COVID, there was such high demand for what we were selling, and people were livid about it. Like there was no one understood. Not even that many people knew what supply chain really was. It was like a
Yeah,
thing that would show up in the newspaper every once in a while. But like now everyone gets it. There's like ports, and they have like it
yeah,
takes time. There's drayage, but at the time, there was just so much pressure to get inventory out like in the absolute shortest possible time frame from when it arrived. So like here's some unconventional things I did. Like there was a FedEx distribution center and we had an air shipment come in
yeah,
and it was like 4 o'clock on a Friday. And I'm like calling them and they're like, no, it's not going to be delivered. It's not going to be delivered. I'm like, where is it? And they're like, well, it's in the distribution center. And I'm like, but where? I'm standing at the front door. Lock it. I will bring my pallet, like, I'll bring a pallet jack. I've got an MHE license, like, we're taking it out the front door of
Yep.
the building. And you guys, they let me in. They let me in, and, like, they brought the stuff to the gate because they have a whole cage thing that you can't go
The
past.
safety issues and all that, yeah.
Yeah, but, like, making friends in moments like that is so like, you just gotta find the guy or the gal who's like, "Okay, Sam. Okay, all right, I'm unlocking the front door." And then
Well,
we would do like, this opposite story at, like, I think it was a UPS distribution center, and the pickup came and went, picked up a bunch of stuff, but we worked for another, like, 7 hours. Well,
yeah.
distribution centers open 24 hours, so it's, like, 11:30 at night, and we're like, "We would like these to go out tomorrow, please." And so we put everything in a truck and we drove it to the UPS distribution center and then just like basically pretended to be another delivery truck and like we got it in.
I mean, but that's incredible because you had a consumer mindset there. You were making sure that your customers would get product on time. And I mean, that's the proper mindset to have as a business owner, right? We had a very similar experience where it was, I think, in our first year of business, we were bringing a product for a customer that was trying to get everything out before Christmas and New Year's. And so we also had to airship this product, which is just exponentially more expensive than putting
20
on a
times more
container.
expensive.
Yeah. And what happened, Sarela got COVID and she got COVID that just like knocked her out, in terms of just really sick, fever, fog, all of that. And so what I did was, and we were having issues similar to yourself, like we couldn't pick it up. If we picked it up with the timeline that FedEx gave us, then it would have been past the date for our customer to get it out to their customers before the holidays. And so I drove up to, we were in DC. I drove to New York City because I believe it was JFK where we air freighted to. And then I was able to pick it up from JFK. We worked it out so I can get it that night. And then I drove to the Finger Lakes and I did a round trip. I went from DC to New York City to the Finger Lakes and back all within one day in order to make sure that our customer got the product that they need. And I think and that's the mentality we have as a business too. And I mean, there's no better way to lead than lead by example. And so I think it's important that you have in those early days, you have moments like that.
You have to take yourself back to the Finger Lakes for like a peaceful vacation. Like
I
a
would
glass
love
of
that.
Riesling on the dock.
I look forward to that. I do.
It'll be your retirement tour.
Yeah.
Go to all of the places that entrepreneurship took you, but just slower,
Yes.
be there.
That would be such an amazing trip because all the places we've been over the last 5 years, both domestically visiting customers and internationally with visiting our suppliers, but doing it from a perspective like after the fact, and we did it from a perspective of reflection.
Yeah.
And I think that would be such an incredible experience.
Should plan that. That sounds rad. I have a middle version of that story, not panicked, not reflective, but weirdly emotional. So I was in China a couple months ago for work and visiting factories, and I got a little bit lost in the middle of Guangzhou one day. Like it was raining and I needed my passport for a thing and I had left it in the lockbox at the hotel. So then I'm like, oh my gosh. So I get in this cab I'm soaking wet, like just drenched. And I'm like, I had already taken 45 minutes to get to destination.
Yeah.
I'm in the cab, like, pretty much what I thought was retracing my steps. We're
Yeah.
going back and, I mean, well, anyway, I'll save the punchline for the punchline, but I'm in this cab and I'm kind of like looking around through the window and I'm like, wow, I guess I just don't know this part of town that well, but like, this looks really unfamiliar. And it was unfamiliar because we had gone 45 minutes in the other wrong direction.
No.
And I just realized in that moment, like how big the world is. And I was like in a car on a
Yeah.
road in the city.
Yeah.
And that I had that feeling of like, wow, if I was really lost here, I would just be, I could be lost forever. Like the world is enormous. And I think sometimes it takes like getting truly lost in a place to make you realize just how massive it all is. And I
It
clearly made
really
it
is.
home. That was like reflective and high pressure.
Yeah, and like I think also like using China as an example, when we were visiting, I think similar region, I was expecting just warehouses and very industrialized, but it was actually not that. It was very commercialized and one of the tallest buildings in the world. in that region. I was just so surprised because typically with other regions that we work with, and especially in industrial parts, it was not that. So you definitely come across surprises too, where you
Yeah.
at least
Yeah.
expect it.
Love to talk for a minute about sales. So you have a B2B business and a D2C business, or a
Yeah.
B2B2C business, as
Yeah.
shelf package stuff. Tell us a little bit about navigating that landscape, what you started with, why it made sense to start there, and then how you've evolved kind of into different packaging formats and
Mhm.
different retail experiences over time.
Yep. So we started in food service. So restaurants you would go to eat. And so that type of format, the supply chains for food service is larger pack sizes. You typically work with a distributor. The distributor will then ship it to the restaurants, or it's that last mile. And so when we started the company, it was focused on high volume, high turnover, whereas product pallet in or container in, container out kind of thing. And when COVID happened, where restaurants were shut down across the country, that's where we pivoted into meal kit companies and also into retail. And so we went from food service to retail. We went from a 25-pound pack craft bag to a 12-ounce bag, and so a much different format that we have,
They're so
which Sam has pulled up right now, and to provide some background on that as well, is we wanted to maintain a non-plastic format. The
yeah,
reason we have craft bags is the inspiration there is it comes from farmers markets. So when you go to your local farmers markets, and they'll hand you a paper bag with your produce in it, right? And so we wanted to maintain that authenticity, that these are coming from farms directly to you, and so it has that farmer markets aspect. In the early iterations, though, of using just a simple bag that you would take to lunch when you're a kid, does not work well when it's going through supply chains.
fair.
If water touches it, we had quinoa all over the shelves in the early days, and that was a learning for us. We needed something that's more durable, and so we definitely had iterations over the time to what it is today. That it is now durable and still maintaining that craft bag feel. So over the course of the 5 years, is we were built in the beginning for volume. So that has allowed us to scale quickly with retail as well. And essentially, there's more products in our food service portfolio that were then selective within our retail portfolio. So the products you see nationwide in grocery stores is a representative of our broader food service portfolio as well. And then we're starting to grow in e-commerce. We just launched our pantry club, and so we're looking at ways to connect with the consumer, provide some limited time offerings and unique products as well.
Have you guys experimented with social selling yet?
No, can you clarify a little bit
So
more?
yeah, so like a TikTok shop, for example,
Got it.
and to an extent, some influencer marketing stuff like a Shop My is what I would kind of like lump into that category. But social selling and live selling, and I was just kind of curious if one of the things I love about your business is that all of the products, they get reproductized into something that you can eat.
Yeah,
And so there's this whole layer of storytelling that comes after it, which is like, okay, well, you bought the thing, but if you buy a mug, you're basically just like buying the mug and using
yeah,
it
yep,
one
yeah,
certain way. But if I'm buying, a bag of your fava beans, like I get to make something of it. I get to participate in what it becomes.
yep.
And I feel like that would be a really interesting story to kind of share and close the loop on through something like social selling.
To-
So I'm curious.
Totally. I mean, whether you're a chef at a Michelin star restaurant or a up and coming restaurant, you're just cooking for yourself, your friends or family, we're empowering you to cook the best and make and provide the best products out there, meals out there by just giving you great quality ingredients. And I mean that's the basis of Simply is to give you great quality ingredients because it does come back to flavor. Quality for us translates to flavor. And then I think this next phase of new product launches we have coming out later this year that I think we're announcing in September will be more of those finished products so that when you don't have time to soak beans overnight or you don't have 30 minutes to cook a meal, we also want to provide some products for you that still have maintained the same standard and coming from the same supply chains and farmers, but also add that level of convenience for you on the go.
Okay, well, you don't have to answer this question if you can't, but I assume that you're implying that something like, I just had to go stand up a canning line, and I'm curious if you're willing to tell us, like, and otherwise we'll edit it. Just like that's yet another layer of complexity that you're kind of bringing into the business and another
Yeah.
packaging format. Was there anything really interesting or surprising that you learned out of that search for like other partnerships?
Yeah. So now that we've gone through this process a number of times, so we're leveraging the same supply chains. So the products that we have, the ingredients we have today, we can use into a finished format. I think the difference is identifying an additional layer, which is like a co-manufacturer or a manufacturer that's taking ingredients into a finished product, and so that's another layer of complexity. I think that the difference though is for us, it's still shelf stable. We're still focused on pantry stable, so we're not dealing with cold supply chains, which is very different and much more expensive than shelf stable supply chains. So I think from that complexity, we're not exposed to that. But when it comes to food safety and quality standards, there's an additional layer that has to be taken consideration. Because you're not only buying a simple ingredient, but then we're giving you a product that's already cooked.
Yeah.
So there is that level of complexity. Whereas if you're just buying a simple ingredient, you're cooking at home. So the risk is actually very minimal, at least for the categories we're in, because
Yeah.
you're cooking the products. Yeah, I would say that's probably the biggest complexity that we're adding to the organization.
One part of this that is maybe, I don't know, surprisingly less complex than usual is that there's a vertical integration aspect to it, which I
Yeah,
absolutely love because you
yeah,
are the ingredient supplier. And I've
yeah,
got to imagine as okay, so bringing it into almost like a costing lens, the fact that you have all of these certifications and are regenerative and are really investing in this supply chain generally would have like a cost elevating
yeah,
effect.
yep,
So I've got to imagine it's a premium price point, and there's a whole kind of conversation line that we could go down there about how to
yeah,
fight against something that's more of a commodity shelf in general.
yeah,
But then when you package it into a closer to ready to eat or ready to use format,
yeah.
I bet you actually really cost competitive there because you are not paying for a middleman ingredient supplier.
Yeah, exactly, and I think that's exactly right, but there's also trade-offs too. If you look at like from a finance perspective, when we put on our finance hat, your cash outflow, you're purchasing ingredients up front, and then you're giving it to someone to then manufacture into a finished product, and then they're giving that back to you. Which, if you in a general sense, so you purchase ingredients day zero, then you're paying like a tolling fee. So you're paying a service fee to then get the ingredients cooked into a finished format, and then from there you're shipping out, and then typically with distributors you have, call it net 30. So that from the time you are spending money to the time you receive money is very long, versus on the opposite end, if you're just buying a finished product from a manufacturer, you're cutting out a big portion of that timeline. And so that is the trade-off, right? And that's something that we are continuously looking to find ways to be more cash efficient, to shorten that timeline. And there's not just one way, there's a variety of ways of doing that, but that's a consideration that you have to make as a business.
To make all of that work, and you don't have to be exhaustive about it, but what's your tech stack? Like what are the systems that you literally are using and like, typing into or
Yeah,
plotting into every day to make like all of this go? Because I have to imagine it's like there's so many layers here.
absolutely. So in a for a business that has international operations and has multiple supply chains going on, what have you, you want an ERP system. So that system is collecting all the data when it comes to inventory and financing invoices and POs and things of that nature. And for us, I mean, communication's key. We have an international office. We have our headquarters is here in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Our company was built to be in person. So it's a little bit different than I think your tech stack would be for a company that thrives in a remote setting. And so there would be differences there, but it's also important for us to be able to communicate with our suppliers globally and our other vendors, or even our team internationally. I mean, we use Slack as an example of that, even though I think Microsoft Teams could also accomplish that. Video conferencing is another thing that comes to it. So I think your communication tech stack, your ERP, and then you have your CRM, so your customer relationship or your supplier relationship management systems, and then what else would there be? Then there's insights, right? There's third party insights, whether it's at the sales level, customer level, supplier level. So we actually, I mean, we have a fairly complex tech stack that we're trying to
Yeah.
simplify. And that's what's so great about AI is that if you can centralize a lot of those things into one or two systems, then that's one or two systems that you have to integrate and then allow them to be your kind of your first level of data interpretation analysis to then you as employees, as team members of a company, you make those judgment calls. And so AI is extremely exciting that allows us to something that would have taken us weeks or months, we can do in days or weeks now.
Yeah. That's incredible. And also, welcome to the Endless Commerce sales team. I have like spent the last 10 years of my life obsessing over like, how do I get out of this? I'm like literally living in a bowl of spaghetti and like looking out
Yeah.
of the bowl and being like, there's gotta be a better way. I am, as you are, really excited about the promise of AI deployed on the right context and the right tools here. It's just extraordinary, like things that, and I have a weird individual experience of it because I'm using AI to build AI tools. So it gets really meta, and I'm like, wow, that would have taken, something as simple as like. So enumerations, which are like the
Yep.
idea of putting something into a list and deciding kind of what
Mm,
that list is
mhm.
that's like set. And so a product could be like, it could be an item, it could be a bundle, it could be a manufactured good, it can
Yeah.
be an assembly, it could be, and then it can have all of these requirements. And this is weirdly where like my English major becomes useful because I have a lot of words. And like years ago, I was like, that was like a quiver in my
Yeah.
in my or an arrow in my quiver and really useful. And now I have like this thought partner that's like, well, you didn't think about that, and what about this
Yep.
thing, and how are you thinking about bombs? And so it's really fun to build at a time when the creative part of building like commerce infrastructure is
Totally.
is powered alongside like the actual just getting the code job
Yeah.
done and then getting the
I
analytics job done.
I think it also fundamentally shifts like how you build a business too, because where say for example, traditionally you would build as you go type of aspect. I think it's even more important now that you fundamentally structure it properly with the right information from day zero, because that will exponentially allow you to grow quicker because it's the right information that's in. So you get the right information that comes out
Yeah.
with the leverage of AI.
Yeah, and I think, in nerd speak, I always think about like context and governance. Like we have to give these
Yeah.
AI tools the right context. We have to figure out which of the truths are the truth in all of this sauce. Like,
Yeah.
and then, put the right constraints on it so that like the robots can actually help you get the job done, but also not blow up your business.
Exactly. Which and then that's like the unknown, right? Is that AI is moving so fast that you give access to one area, but you don't know. Sometimes you don't understand of the actual impact it have or how much it's sharing. And so I think that's the governance that comes into making sure that you're protecting yourself.
This has been such a fun conversation, and I'm so interested in just what a kind of complex and multifaceted, but also very modern business that you've built. And it's hard to build something complicated and nimble. And it's rad to hear the story. Thank you for sharing so much. And and we'd love to have you back.
Thank you, Sam. Thanks for having me today. It was great to speak with you.
Cheers. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for joining us for another episode of Commerce is Chaos. If you're listening, I have a feeling you know just how much good leaving a 5-star review can do for a team. Drop us a review on Apple Podcasts and subscribe to Commerce is Chaos wherever you get your podcasts. Don't forget to subscribe to our Substack, also called Commerce is Chaos, for more good stuff and actionable tools to build your business.